Welcome to the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast. Thomas Miller here along with Robert Glasscock. I'm going to show you a little trick that Robert uses in that rectification technique that we talked about all the way back in the third episode when we didn't know what we were doing around here. But if you haven't listened to that episode, I would encourage you to go back to number 3 and then come back to this, because we're telling you a technique within a technique. But in that episode, or in that rectification technique, which, by the way, Robert, a lot of people have told me how much they appreciate that and have used it in their own astrology practices, and they didn't know about it until they heard it here from you. But
I didn't know about it until I heard about it from Linda Goodman.
Well, the whole idea here
Passing it on.
We're passing it on, exactly. So you're able to move that midheaven very quickly in your mind. Can you tell us how you do that? And the chart that we're going to be basing all of this on, all of this math and everything that we're doing, is in our show notes. There's a link where you can download it. Would highly suggest you do that so that you can follow along and you'll understand the math a lot better than trying to just visualize this mentally.
Well, yeah, if you look at this chart now that we're looking at, with the midheaven is at 21.5 Capricorn. Well, I'm looking at this chart and I can see, Venus is at 18 and change, 18 and a quarter. Aquarius, that's the next sign. Well, mentally, I know that each sign only has 30 degrees. So I'm looking at this midheaven at 21.5. That means it has 9.5 degrees to go before the midheaven enters the next sign, which is Aquarius. And when it does that, then it has 18 more degrees to go to get to Venus. So 9 and 18 is 27 degrees. So now if you're rectifying, let's say that age 27, 1 degree per year, is when the midheaven at birth symbolically conjoined Venus. At which point you would say, let me ask you about age 27. Were you in a relationship? Did you actually get married or almost get married? Because this shows a significant relationship around age 27, and you maybe had to choose between a relationship or a career, and your real focus was on the career. And if you start talking, that's just strictly that midheaven conjoining that Venus in Aquarius, which happens to conjoin Saturn. And so in asking about that age, you would get confirmation from the person about what you had just said. But that's how you do the math, because each sign only has 30 degrees. And if you wanted to move this midheaven forward or backward, either way, and just remember that each sign only has 30 degrees. So in this case, 21.5 Capricorn means that midheaven has 9.5 degrees to go before it enters Aquarius. And then here comes Venus at 18 more degrees. So 18 and 9 is 27. And that's your age for that archetype to be active in the life.
Now, if somebody came along and they said, what planet might represent something that happened at age 27? The other part of this technique that I've heard you do so fast, this is just incredible, is you would say 21, which is where the midheaven is now, plus 27 is 48. And you would say 48 Capricorn equals 18 Aquarius.
Exactly right.
So what you're doing is you're taking, here's a fixed age that they're saying, what might have happened to me at whatever the context is. That's not important. This is the technique that we're trying to pass along here. But what you would do is take that midheaven to see is this a correct midheaven at 21 degrees plus 27. So you just add those two together. 21 plus 27 is 48. And then you subtract 30 from that, gives you 18 of the next sign.
That's it.
It's really effective. I've heard Robert do this, where he moves that midheaven all over the place. It's like a ping pong ball. And he can do it simply by counting that way. Show us how you would do it. We don't have a planet there, but let's just bring it back the same way. So what about if we were going backwards towards Sagittarius and doing the same thing? So 48, get us backwards with that.
All right, well, let's do this, Thomas. The midheaven is 21.5 Capricorn. Mars is at 8 degrees Gemini. So you notice if we move this Capricorn midheaven back from Capricorn into Sagittarius, at some point it's going to oppose that natal Mars in Gemini. We can figure it out. Here's the midheaven at 21 Capricorn and a half. So now we have from 0 Cap to 21 and a half is 21 and a half degrees. And now we have to, that gets it back into, if you're moving it backwards, that gets it back into 29 or 30 degrees Sag. So now we've got to go back to 8 Sag, which is roughly 12 more. Is that right? No, it's 22. It's 22 more degrees. So we've already gone, that's going to be in his 40s when this happens. So you've got the midheaven at 21 Capricorn. So that's, let's say 21 and a half degrees, put you back at 0 Capricorn. And then you've got 22 more degrees to go back. So that's at age 43. Do you see how I'm thinking in terms of the signs each have 30 degrees and so on? I don't know if I'm making this clear enough to listeners. If they're looking at the chart at the same time, I think it'll be clearer.
Yeah, you need to check the charts right there in the notes, as we mentioned. So, yes, you're bringing it back to that 0 point and then either adding or subtracting, basically, from there.
Yeah, because you can see here, if you mentally, you can play around with it when you're looking. Here's the midheaven at 21 Capricorn. Well, let's move it backwards for converse progressions or converse solar arcs. I can see it's going to go back through Capricorn. It's going to hit 0 Capricorn and then go into 2959 Sagittarius. Look at this. It's going to oppose Mars at 8 degrees Gemini in a few. So then you just begin to add it up. You have 21 and a half degrees to go backwards through Capricorn, and that gets you to the end of Sag. And then you have to go back 22 more degrees through Sag to get to 8 Sag, which is where you have the opposition then to Mars at 8 Gemini. So that adds up to age 43, 1 degree for a year. And then you would ask about a complete change in his work and business at age 43. With Mars and Gemini, starting a second career or an additional income stream, and you can go on from there.
Perfect.
But those are the kinds of things you would ask about at that age. Yeah.
Now, here's the coup de grace of this whole thing, because a lot of people, with all of these energetic changes that have been going on in our universe, have said that they're having trouble sleeping. So if you're having trouble sleeping, don't count sheep, count sign degrees. So you can practice in your sleep moving the midheaven and moving the planets, and you'll be asleep in 10 minutes. Promise.
I'm gonna validate that for you.
All right.
I swear to you, if I am having, which I don't, but I have trouble sleeping, but if I do occasionally, I will start thinking about my chart as a rule and something going on in my chart as I'm lying in bed, and it's a great way to drift off into sleep.
That would be perfect, right? And then you get some inspiration because your subconscious is going to lock on to all of that while you're sleeping. You'll get your answer when you wake
true.
up. All right. Hey, thanks for this. Really appreciate it. Great technique, and thank you for rolling it forward to a whole nother generation of astrologers who will pick this up and share it out as well. If you would like to book a session with Robert, he is booking, and those same show notes where you found the chart is where you will find the information for that, along with our Discord channel and our YouTube channel as well. So thank you so much for listening. Hope this was helpful. It's kind of fun. This is Thomas Miller. For Robert Glasscock, thank you. We'll see you next time on the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast.